And so a lot of people have been, over the years, the awake people, wondering why they're spraying these chemtrails. And there's many different reasons. Some of them are military, some of them deal with weather modification commercially, and others deal with weather modification for military use as a weapon. They also have a population control agenda, is a hidden frequency control agenda, a hidden agenda to control consciousness of human beings on a planetary scale. There's 3 prongs to this. One's water, one's air, and one's food. So here's how Operation Indigo Skyfall basically works. They've been fluoridating water around the world in industrialized countries. Fluoride accumulates in the pineal gland of the human brain. Okay, so the first way they attack us through the chemtrails is through air, of course, and they spray nanoaluminum. Well, nanoaluminum particulates, they pass through our nose and through the barriers in our lungs. They're so small that our body has no defense against them. And these nanoparticulates are absorbed directly in the bloodstream, and guess where they go? They accumulate in the pineal gland. And so what we have with these chemtrail sprayings, we have nanoaluminum in the air, then we have fluoride in the water, and then we have glyphosate in the food. These 3 substances on their own are all toxic, but when you combine them together in the process of synergism, they're 125 times more powerful than any one of them together. So it's a super concentrate of toxins. Now, Ole, these super concentrates, they all go to the pineal gland. The pineal gland sees this huge increase of toxicity, and it takes calcium out of the bloodstream and puts all of this stuff on the outside of the pineal gland, and it encases it. It forms what they call calcifications. And so when the pineal gland, which is one of our master glands of the body, it's called the seat of the soul, or the Ajna center, it's our connection to the higher realms of consciousness. What this is, Ole, is a block. It's a way to block our connections to our higher spiritual selves. And this is why the New World Order, one of the reasons, they're spraying worldwide around the globe with chemtrails. They're also putting fluoride in the waters, and they're also putting glyphosate in the food. The overall result is that we're dumbed down, okay? And we have little or no connection to our higher spiritual functions. Our bodies do not have natural immunological or natural immunization against these new particles. Our species has evolved on this planet for a long time, and these things are brand new. Our bodies don't know how to filter them. All the systems in our kidneys and our livers and spleens never dealt with glyphosate. They never dealt with nanoaluminum. All this stuff was created by high-level science. It's being dumped in our atmosphere. And one of the most insidious, hideous parts of the chemtrail or geoengineering agenda, it's not just weather control. It's not just military weapons. It's not just steering the weather. It is actually changing the evolution of the human species. It's actually creating shields over our connection to higher consciousness through the pineal gland. And this is a way they can control it, subdue it, limit its power so that people will still be able to work and live, but not be a threat to the New World Order.
inside every person, you have control over electromagnetic fields. You have your own inside the pineal gland, and you also have the interferences of other types of electromagnetic energy, so that includes all of the light spectrum. Our pineal gland actually produces short wavelength radiation, and it's not harmful to us or animals or anything on this planet. But the closer you are together, the more metaphysically powerful it is. There's a lot of distractions to keep us from being in touch with the power that we have in our DNA and the organ, the pineal gland. That organ is tremendously important. It has been just very surveyed over in medical science. Students are not learning about it. There's a reason for that. It's a communication device as well as an awareness device. And without it, there would be a tremendous amount of things that we'd never become aware of. It is the foundation of consciousness. It's a communicator, but there are so many things that the pineal gland is purposely exposed to in order to basically pipe down the functionality, if not completely turn off its functionality.
My research has showed that the interior of the pineal gland is water, but that there are small crystals in there, and that fluoride, because the blood-brain barrier is not in effect for the pineal gland, anything that's in your bloodstream can go in there. And if there's fluoride in your bloodstream, it attaches to these crystals that are very important to the pineal gland's function, and ultimately you get this thing that looks like a bony lump on an X-ray. It's actually calcified pineal gland.
The main thing that the cabal or our government is trying to do is suppress our awareness. The less we are aware of what we can do, the less we're going to do. The first step is being aware. The second step is then utilizing what functionalities you do have access to.
Yes, cryptocurrency is a nail in the coffin of the bankster parasites. Yes, digital currency is a tool of the totalitarian tyrants. No, these statements are not contradictory. But don't worry if you think they are. You're just a victim of the Bitcoin psyop. If so, then you have fallen for an embarrassingly simple trick. That trick is to use the words Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrency and digital currency interchangeably, as if they are all the same thing. They are not. A blockchain is a cryptographically secured ledger that can be permissionless and decentralized.
The system that Bitcoin runs on is called blockchain. Think of it as a modern version of an old-fashioned bookkeeping ledger. But instead of a handwritten list of entries and calculations, a blockchain is a digital list of entries and calculations. A block is simply a bundle of transactions. Think of a block as a whole page of transactions in the old-fashioned ledger. A blockchain is just a chain of blocks. It's the same as a whole series of pages in the old-fashioned ledger.
So what does the blockchain record? Well, whatever you want it to, of course. It can be used as a tool for creating smart contracts, or registering land ownership, or creating decentralized cryptocurrencies. This is where Bitcoin comes in. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency whose transactions are recorded in a public blockchain ledger.
The essence of Bitcoin is the ability to operate in a decentralized way without having to trust anyone. The essence of Bitcoin is to be able to use software to authoritatively, independently, without appeal to authority, verify everything yourself.
Bitcoin uses a specific kind of blockchain ledger called a public or permissionless blockchain. This means anyone can join the network and contribute to the maintenance of the ledger. Mining in the Bitcoin parlance. The point for today is simply to recognize that there are a lot of separate but related concepts here, and to talk about them as if they are all just one big monolithic thing is not just unhelpful, but purposefully misleading. So yes, the blockchain could be used to create a digital currency that represents the bankster's worst nightmare. Free individuals could use a public blockchain to create a cryptocurrency not issued by, or subject to, any central authority. And yes, central banks could use private blockchains to administer national digital currencies that permanently record and track every transaction in the economy. That currency could be distributed through government-issued digital wallets that act as an individual ID and allow the government to track everything you ever purchase back to you personally. It could be used to create the perfect system of panoptic oversight. And the totalitarians could, as sole proprietors of the private blockchain, target anyone they saw as a threat for removal from the economy by simply revoking their wallet.
Ich bin auch der festen Überzeugung, und da mag man mir jetzt wieder Verschwörungstheorie vorwerfen, dass der Bitcoin, dass der nicht von irgendeinem anonymen Asiaten im Hinterzimmer zusammengeschraubt wurde und in die Welt gebracht wurde. Aus meiner Sicht sind Kryptowährungen als neue Weltleitwährung schon lange in der Vorbereitung.
Von wem?
Ja, von denen, die auch heute schon unsere Gelder verwalten, von Zentralbanken, das selbstverständlich. Wenn du sagst, die neue Welt wird digital sein, wir wollen weg von dem Bargeld, wir wollen zu einer digitalen Währung, wo wir viel mehr Kontrolle und Übermöglichkeiten haben. Du hast aber null Erfahrung. Du aus der kalten Küche heraus machst du eine Kryptowährung, da kann so viel schiefgehen. So hast du jetzt wunderbarerweise aus anonymer Quelle ergibt sich eine Bewegung, wo man im großen Flächenversuch rund um die Welt mal prüfen kann, wie geht denn das? Was muss ich machen? Welche Stellschrauben sind zu verändern? Nehmen die Leute das an? Und ich habe einen riesen Marketing-Gag. Hätte ich vor 10 Jahren gesagt, wir schaffen das Bargeld ab und machen eine Kryptowährung, hätten die mich vom Hof gejagt. Wenn heute die Regierung kommen würde oder eine Zentralbank kommen würde, wir machen eine Krypto-Weltleitwährung, sind die Leute da und sagen, klasse, da sind wir schon mal reich geworden, mit tolle Geschichte. Ich bin sogar der Überzeugung, dass die nächsten Weltleitwährungen Kryptowährungen sein werden. Aber ganz sicher wird es keine anonyme Bezahlung geben, sondern das gibt ja die ersten Vorschläge, die von den Zentralbanken kommen, auf Kryptowährungen zu gehen, beinhalten ja genau das, nämlich die totale Kontrolle. Dann kannst du jeden kontrollieren, dann weißt du genau, wer in den vergangenen 50 Jahren was gekauft hat, was getan hat und du kannst jeden abklemmen.
We hear it daily from MSNBC and CNN, from the New York Times and the Washington Post, that people who doubt the narrative of what's loosely called Rusiagate are somehow acting on behalf of or under the spell of the Kremlin, that we aren't Americans any longer. This is a whole new realm of defamation. I'm shocked, but I'm not astonished, because I have thought and said for a number of years that there's been a steady degradation of American political culture and discourse. I think all of us need to focus on what's happened in this country when in the very mainstream, I mean at the highest, most influential levels of the political establishment, this kind of discourse is no longer considered an exception. It is the norm.
There was a report put out recently by the very influential Council on Foreign Relations. They arrived to very different conclusions that you do and call for an even more aggressive policy towards Russia than we have already. What you think the aims there are of people from an establishment group like this pushing now for ramping up confrontation with Russia?
What is the Council on Foreign Relations? It's not just a think tank. The Council is and has been for almost 100 years the single most influential non-governmental center of foreign policy influence. And what it's done over the years, because of its elite membership, is shape essentially the parameters of mainstream discussion. what's kosher and what isn't kosher. They are a reflection of where we're at in this country in terms of our political establishment. But for various reasons, I assure you, this new Cold War is much more dangerous, much more likely to end in hot war than was the 40-year Cold War, which we barely survived. What's the most worrying thing? That the new Cold War is unfolding not far away from Russia, but on Russia's borders in the Baltic and in Ukraine. That we are building up our military presence there, so the Russians are counter-building up, though within their own territory. That means the chances of hot war are now much greater than they were before. Not only do we not have a discussion of these real dangers in the United States, but anyone who wants to incite a discussion, including the President of the United States, is called treasonous. It's a lot of people who are being called Kremlin agents because they want to digress from the basic narrative. And meanwhile, I would add that people in Moscow who form their political establishment, who surround Putin and the Kremlin, and who have always tended to be kind of pro-American and very moderate, have simply come to the conclusion that war is coming. They can't think of a single thing to tell the Kremlin to offset hawkish views in the Kremlin. And these were the people in Moscow who are our détente, peacekeeping interlocutors. They have been destroyed by Rusiagate. Their influence in Russia is zilch. So this is the damage that's been done. There's never been anything like this in my lifetime.
There is no longer two clear, distinct states of peace and war. What constitutes a weapon in this grey area no longer has to go bang. Energy, cash as bribes, corrupt business practices, cyber attacks, assassination, fake news, propaganda, and indeed military intimidation are all examples of the weapons used to gain advantage in this era of constant competition. The arch exponent of this is Russia. They represent a clear and present danger. They are now on Europe's doorstep. And the character of warfare is making it much harder for us to recognise true intentions and thus distinguish between what is peace and what is war. Now, this system warfare has to be defeated. Russia, I think, could initiate hostilities sooner than we expect. Most likely, they will use nefarious actions to erode the capability of NATO and threaten the very structure that provides our own defence and security. It will start with something we don't expect. But we may not have a choice about conflict with Russia. So, what should we be doing differently? We should identify Russian weaknesses and then manoeuvre asymmetrically against them. We've got to continue to work at improving NATO. And I think to do all of this, we need to return to an annual or biennial NATO exercise rhythm. This would allow frontline countries to practice mobilisation. We need to prepare ourselves to fight the war we might have to fight.
Now we have the Trump administration, orchestrated mostly by the Pentagon, saying that's not enough, really. And they're saying that based on some things that the Russians are doing in their exercises and in their doctrine, as well as on what the Chinese are doing. But in many cases, it is our efforts that have compelled the Russians and the Chinese to do what they're doing. So this is another form of what you might call Cold War-like competition starting up to keep our military-industrial complex alive and well prospering, as well as to deal with what might be potential threats in the world.
Did the First Lady really swat the president's hand away again? Melania Trump looked radiant yesterday, but some on social media are convinced the president reached for her hand and she rejected him. And not the first time. You'll recall the First Lady seemed to swat the president's hand away during a state visit to Israel last May. Melania simply doesn't want to hold this man's hand. It's clear and obvious.
What is a targeted individual, or a TI? It's a person who basically has been is currently, or who is intermittently under, I guess you could say, a form of attack by implants, lasers, handheld microwave and X-ray devices, plasma beams, and virtually any other type of directed energy weapon, which results in a myriad of symptoms from electrical shocks, hearing voices, and just an overall feeling that your health is in decline due to some unknown and unseen reason. And in fact, there are now so many victims that the phenomenon can no longer be denied. And so these people exist all over the world. They are everyday, normal, average, non-crazy people. The more that you research into this topic of targeted individuals, you realize that it can affect you, your family, your friends, and anyone from any walk of life. And it's as simple as one day you feel normal, you're going about your everyday life, and the next you literally feel as if you are being hit or targeted by some sort of energy apparatus that is described by most people as torturous. And then we have the implants, which have been found in a number of these so-called targeted individuals through various scans, X-rays, and MRIs, and subsequent surgeries. Now, nobody knows for sure who's behind this. Some say it's the government, with references to mind control, and rumors of CIA files, one of which is called Operation Pandora, in which in the 60s the US researched biological and behavioral effects of microwave radiation. Then we have the 2002 Air Force Research Laboratory patent for using microwaves to send spoken words into someone's head. And of course, you can also look into MK-Ultra and the government's continued illegal experimentation on the unknowing public since the 1950s.
Gang stalking is a little bit of a misnomer because we're not talking about street gangs here. We're talking about very, very coordinated groups, often coordinated from local police, often from Homeland Security, private contractors. There's a number of names: community stalking, vigilante stalking, in which all kinds of civilian spies are enlisted in order to target individuals who are designated as, well, who knows, you can get on these lists in a number of ways to become a targeted individual. Could be that you're a whistleblower. That's very common. In other words, a way to neutralize people and eventually destroy the lives of people who are questioning the system. The goal of these community spying networks is to neutralize, discredit, ultimately destroy individuals that the state deems as problematic. So it's really a disposal system for citizens. And so you get a whole network, incredibly organized, vertically integrated network in which many citizens, often ex-military, often ex-police, often military, often police, often civilians, often bottom feeders. These would be what we call the perpetrators, who actually are carrying out the gang stalking operations against the TIs, who are the targeted individuals. And normally, this involves at first a few years of surveillance so that the targeted individual or the TI doesn't even know that they're being targeted. But the perpetrators, the hierarchy there is getting a psychological profile on the individual so that they can figure out how best to push their buttons, harass them, get them to get pushed over the edge so they will act out. The diabolical genius behind this program is that the people who become perpetrators are also controlled. So they control not only the perpetrators, but through the perpetrators, they control and try to destroy the lives of the targeted individuals. And this can go on for years. And of course, if you are a targeted individual, this information is life or death.
Sure.
Because if you don't know what's happening, you literally can be driven to suicide, as many have, or to act out. And again, why they want to get you to act out is so they can arrest you or put you in an institution. And since the institution and the police are in on it, generally speaking, you know, you're better off not going to the police, and you're better off not going to a psychologist, because once they get you institutionalized, then they can throw away the key. And of course, they do want to isolate you from your family. They want to isolate you from your friends, all to, you know, make you more apt to commit suicide or be easier to take out. It's a total control system. This is Orwell and Brave New World coming true in a dystopian tyranny.
You mentioned gaslighting. And gaslighting is an amazing phenomenon. That's where you try to convince somebody that they're crazy. And the reason I think that this is important, I mean, I think that a lot of people are waking up, and as they awaken, they're going to realize that the mainstream media and mainstream thought is going to try to gaslight them. Now, gaslight them, try to make them think that they're crazy. Well, first of all, they'll call them a conspiracy theorist. But that's the whole role of mainstream media in terms of the awakening community. To try to convince our families, our kids, that we're crazy because we're waking up.
The technology now includes directed energy weapons, or what they call non-lethal weapons, or slow kill, or hands-off torture. So people can be harassed electronically in their own homes. Heart attacks can be induced, and are. At the very top, we have the Illuminati bloodline Satanist families who are kind of behind the whole thing to give us a self-policing fascist totalitarian state. So we police ourselves. It is of global significance. There's nowhere to hide.
So are you yourself a targeted individual?
Oh, yes.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a very broad statement these days. Some people that I'm dealing with, they deal with gang stalking predominantly, manipulation of their lives by others.
The ones at the more extreme end, like myself, we're dealing with technological manipulation, which is V2K, voice-to-skull technology.
Wow, okay.
So I can be communicated with in my head.
What does that feel like? Are you hearing voices inside your head?
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. It's literally a loud voice. I mean, it's in some scientific journals described as the voice of God technology.
So this is your brain?
Yeah.
And what are we looking at?
The implants here. The ICT implants. You don't need any medical training whatsoever to see that these are foreign bodies. So
okay.
That's the real game changer. The reports I've got on both MRI scans say there are no abnormalities showing. They were trying to discredit me, saying that I needed psychiatric treatment, and they were covering it up. I wish I was mad. I wish I had a mental illness. I do. I wish I was psychotic. I wish I was bipolar. I wish I was anything, because I could get treatment for that. For this, I can't.
We will adjust to whatever is resonating in our environment. 5G, the pulse that it could produce is extremely rapid, and we will resonate with it. What people don't really know is that even our own sweat glands act as antennae, and our skin, our largest organ in our body, directly responds to 5G in the sense of resonance. So the fact that this is going up in neighborhoods indicates that this is another control item similar to the smart meters. So this is our problem. People are just people, and they're used to thousands of years of being able to see if there's an enemy, to see if there's something that they shouldn't trust, that they should really research and look into and study. And now we're barraged. We're living in the midst of a wireless world. This technology is a Pandora's box. It is now open. And there is no way that they are going to close it, barring some sort of extreme cataclysm. They will have access to your house. They will have access to how you come and go. They will have access to visuals as well. We have invited the Trojan horse into our homes, into our communities and neighborhoods as a friend. And it is no friend. We've been in love with convenience, comfort, cute toys, and this has been our downfall. I am also pursuing the targeted individual dilemma. What they are being subjected to, on the most part, is they are the experimental guinea pigs for this technology, for this remote control of thoughts, heart rate, blood pressure, urination, defecation, all of these things. Here in the States, we have what are called fusion centers. And fusion centers are across the nation. You never hear about them. They're never in any press or on news or anything because they are the silent keepers. And these fusion centers, I'm convinced, will be connected to all the 5Gs so that they will have access to all the data that they need.
Would this be above the pay grade of world leaders, presidents and prime ministers? Is this above them? This is coming from somewhere else, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, just think about it with Mr. Trump in America. He's only in office for at the most 8 years. The other people who are running all this, they're there forever.
The reptilians have the ability to literally inhabit or possess our bodies, just like stories of demonic possession from the old days. Reptilians can do this. They can take over control of our bodies, and they can also interbreed with us. The Draco reptilians, which are the leadership caste of reptilians, let's say, they also are psychic vampires. They love to feed on our emotions, especially strong emotions like terror, anger, heartbreak. They set up a lot of people so that they can put them in situations where these emotions will come out, and then they can just invisibly harvest that energy, because of course our bodies are putting out energy all the time, and the more intense the emotion is, the more energy that we put out from our bodies, and they can just basically feed off of that. But the Draco also, they're carnivorous. They like to eat humans, especially babies and young children, because they haven't polluted their bodies. And there's millions of people that have gone missing over the past several decades that have never been accounted for. Where do you hide millions of people? You can't hide them. You know, they're being turned over to these aliens. They'll do anything they can to get them as terrified as possible, because when their bodies are infused with the maximum amount of adrenaline, they get like a kind of a high off of it that they've kind of become addicted to. It's like a drug to them. It's a terrible thing. It's one of the most difficult things to talk about, and it's certainly all by itself that's a reason not to disclose the truth. The aliens which are in control of this place are malevolent, they're hostile, they're invasive, intrusive. They don't care at all about our well-being or our comfort. We are seen by them as being livestock. We are a harvestable commodity. We are human resources. It has been active in human history as long as we've had history. There have been gods from the skies that come down and interact with humans. There have been reptilian rulers that demand human sacrifice all throughout the history of the world. To get to the top levels of the Black Ops world, you have to basically sell out to the aliens in order to get there. That's why the head of the National Security Agency is also the founder of the Temple of Set. If you know what that is, it's devil worship. And they're all involved in that. And that's a whole nother subject. But humans disappear from this world all the time, and they're never seen again. They like to take street people, because the cops don't care what happens to them when they get reported as missing. And apparently some of them are sold into slavery, and some of them are just consumed. I mean, how does the president come out and speak about that publicly? The president doesn't even have the power to order disclosure to happen, because he doesn't know the whole truth himself. It's because there's classification, security classification so high that he can't even know they exist unless someone tells him. The attitude of the military is any president is going to be gone within 4 to 8 years, but the military will remain and the aliens will remain, and so will the projects that we're engaged in together. And so the president has to be informed that the aliens are here, but there are at least 16 levels of security classification above what the president is cleared for. They treat the president like they treat any other soldier, basically. He's told what he needs to know in order to do his job and no more. The government is in this up to their necks. And a true full public disclosure would require disclosing the reason that the aliens are really here and what they're really doing to us. I don't think that people could hear that without starting a new revolution. We would basically dismantle our government in order to stop them from doing what they're doing, because we are being handed over to the aliens. They already control everything in this world that they need to control. We are not in control of our destiny. Our destiny as a race depends on our relations with alien beings. It's better to know the truth than to go through life under an illusion. And most of the things that we're told turn out on examination to not be true. There's always a level of deception in this world. No matter what you look at, nothing works the way you think it does. We've got to come to grips with what's going on here, because this planet is in a lot of trouble right now. People don't realize it.
Se están viviendo acontecimientos muy importantes, extraordinariamente importantes en la humanidad de cara a, bueno, pues terremotos, ciclones, niveles exacerbados de agresividad.
Simultáneamente. O sea, se está acelerando el proceso.
Exactamente. ¿Y por qué se acelera el proceso?
Bueno, porque todo se va a acelerar. También el proceso solar, ha habido unas tormentas solares potentes y van a ir a más. No tengo ninguna duda de ningún tipo. Las tormentas solares provocan perturbaciones. El viento solar es un factor evolutivo por excelencia. Provoca evolución también. Hay toda una aceleración. Y esa aceleración, para mí, nos dirige hacia que se funda el sistema en el que vivimos, se funda al nivel que sea, y que haya un salto evolutivo, favorecer el salto evolutivo. El salto evolutivo se tiene que producir, caiga lo que caiga, porque será bueno para lo que hay de humano y de positivo en nosotros, porque estamos en la sexta extinción irremisiblemente. Entonces, si esto no pega un cambio brusco, ¿a dónde vamos?
Entonces es un cambio violento.
Es violento porque no hemos hecho las cosas por las buenas, sino por las malas. Pero realmente el proceso evolutivo es un proceso, es un camino de liberación. A nivel individual y a nivel colectivo también es un proceso de liberación. Es un proceso. No voy a ser libre, sino cada vez me voy a ir liberando de más ataduras. Te pregunto, ¿estamos haciendo algo para remediar este mal que nos corroe a todos los niveles? ¿O estamos haciendo todo lo contrario? Lo estamos haciendo muy poco, y muy pocos, y muy poco. La naturaleza y la evolución es sabia. Si hay una especie miserable, como la especie humana, miserable en el sentido de que se deja manipular, atar, que vive encerrada en el ego, en yo, mí, lo mío, y que está pudriendo el proceso evolutivo, lo normal es que eso se barra de un zarpazo. Si hay un cáncer, el sistema, que es nuestra metaprogramación del ser humano, del yo, mí, lo mío, y de vivir atados a fantasías como el dinero, y que eso importe más que la vida, lo normal es que se acabe con eso. Debemos ser muy conscientes de que es un proceso y que lo que tenemos que hacer es adaptarnos, pero no solo adaptarnos, sino cooperar. O sea, la clave aquí es la coevolución. No lo digo yo, lo dicen, por ejemplo, un científico ruso que descubrió con su equipo que el Sol, el sistema solar, se estaba introduciendo en una nube de polvo cósmico que nos llevaba a todo este proceso, y que la única forma de sobrevivir era la cooperación, es decir, tenemos que ir por el camino opuesto al que vamos. Clave, ponernos en el lugar del otro. Clave, la unión, no la separación, pero siempre la unión colectiva, la coevolución, ponernos en el lugar del otro y pensar que es lo mejor, y sobre todo en este momento. Divide y vencerás es el camino contrario a la supervivencia. Yo creo que en el universo hay sembradores de vida, hay ingenieros planetarios. Estamos hablando de niveles de evolución que nos llevan miles de millones de años de evolución. Seres que serían incomprensibles, conciencias puras. Entonces estamos hablando de seres cuyo interés es que el proceso evolutivo siga adelante, dispuestos a ayudarnos, y al contrario, los diosecillos de la antigüedad quieren que sigamos siendo su chiringuito, su repertorio de energía, y mantenernos en la esclavitud, en el horror, en la división.
Entonces, la opción es
la conciencia, la comprensión. Primero, partir de la conciencia, de la quietud. Es parar la mente. Para eso no nos hace falta, venga, ponernos a pensar. No, tomar conciencia. ¿Por qué? Porque en el momento que tomamos conciencia, estamos conectando con lo esencial en nosotros, comprendemos que lo único importante es despertar, que lo único importante es vivir desde ese nivel, y desde ese nivel escapar a todas las ataduras. Todo lo que ocurra será bueno, formará parte del proceso evolutivo, y lo que hace falta es vivirlo desde esa conciencia de plenitud, de tranquilidad, de centro de gravedad permanente, que nos permita No volvernos locos con todo lo que ya está aquí y todo lo que viene, y eso que nos lleve al recuerdo de uno mismo. Me acuerdo de mí mismo, lo importante es mi centro de gravedad, no lo que ocurre fuera, y lo importante es dar el salto evolutivo.